In 2016, we live in a digital age of courtship. With the advent of sites like Match.com and OkCupid, millions of people have taken to the dating scene online. 20-somethings rely heavily on apps such as Tinder and Bumble, where they can swipe right and swipe left to find their latest love interests. It seems to me that people prefer to hide behind their phone screens instead of going out and making meaningful connections. Digital dating allows individuals to curate their ideal profile, but what you see in a photo doesn't always match up in real life. What happened to the days of blind dates, or of meeting your future sweetheart in a restaurant serendipitously? For Mr. Fidler, he met his wife the old-fashioned way. He went out to learn how to dance and ended up sweeping a young lady named Betty McBride off her feet. In today's episode, we will explore what it was like for Ken to find the love of his life. I'm Marley, the co-host of the Ping Jockey podcast, and I'm sitting here with the Ping Jockey himself, Mr. Kenneth H. Fidler, and thank you for joining us. So, Mr. Fidler, by this time you had a full-time job erecting full-fashion knitting machines at the Berkshire Knitting Mills. Were you saving your money to buy something special?
Yes, I was. I decided to buy my first car, a green 1936 Plymouth. It was a nice car.
Wow, that sounds pretty nice. So since you had a new set of wheels, were you riding around town or going anywhere special?
Well, since I had my own new car now, I was able to run around a little more freely. I heard about a place where they taught dancing, and then afterwards held a regular dance from 9 p.m. to midnight. All this happened at Gundry's dance studio. It was run by Mr. and Ms. Gundry, and they taught ballroom dancing from 8 until 9 every Tuesday and Saturday evening. If you came for the lesson, you could also stay for the dance the rest of the evening for the same price. Some people, however, just came for the dance. The nice thing about it was that almost everyone came as a single, and most of us were just learning to dance, so everyone was pretty friendly and anxious to dance with each other for practice. It was a great place to make new friends, especially of the opposite sex. I started going to Gundry's dance studio regular on Tuesday and Saturday evenings, and a few fellows from WPI came with me. We made a lot of friends with women, danced, and had a lot of fun. Then all of a sudden, something happened.
Did you meet somebody special?
I met a certain girl at Gundry's. Things haven't been the same ever since. She was an Irish girl, and her name was Betty McBride. We danced a lot together and seemed to hit it off pretty good. And soon I asked her for a date.
How was your first date?
She said yes, and that was the start of something big. I met Betty around November, and it was March, and I asked her to marry me.
Well, that was fast. You hardly wasted any time.
Well, that's the way you do it.
Did you knew right away that she was the one?
I must have.
Wow. It seems to me that was a pretty fast courtship. Did you guys run into any sticky situations together?
We had a couple of rough spots in between November and March, but nothing we couldn't straighten out. I remember one Tuesday, we went to Gundry's to the dance, and Betty wanted to leave in the middle of it and go home and wash her hair in preparation for a date we had the next night. I dropped her off at her house on Perkins Avenue, and she said, "It's early yet. Why don't you go back to dance?" I told her I would go home and get to bed early. Well, on my way out, I thought, what the heck? It was pretty early, and I decided to go back to the dance. And I met one of my old dancing partners, and we left together at the end of the dance.
What happened then?
The only problem was that when we left the dance, Elsie Banks was standing outside, and she happened to work with Betty at American Casualty. I knew right away that I might be in trouble, and the following night, I wished I had taken a sweater or a coat with me. I could tell right away that Elsie must have told Betty about what she saw. We worked it out though, but I think Betty thinks twice now before she tells me I can go and do something.
Oh, so she started to run the show. She gave you permission to do stuff. So in August, you gave Betty an engagement ring. Where did you go pick it out?
Where did I go pick it out?
Yeah.
In his jewelry store.
Okay.
She wasn't with me.
Oh, you went out and did it on your own?
Oh, well, I bought it.
Did you surprise her?
Yeah. And she was happy to take it.
Did you get down on one knee?
Maybe that's why my knees hurt.
She had you waiting for a while with her answer. So what was the wedding planning process like? I know nowadays, there's always drama involved.
Well, we got to the point where we knew that I was about ready to finish my trade, and as soon as that happens, they could send me out on a job. And Betty and I had talked about it, and all of a sudden we decided we'll get married Saturday.
Wow, and what month was this in?
October.
And was there a little bit of a...
October 8th we got married.
Who took issues with the fact that you guys were getting married in October?
Betty and I had to make some decisions. I think that I was to finish my trade about October 15th. And any time after that, I could be sent away. We talked it over, and all of a sudden we decided to get married the following weekend, if we could arrange it. And Betty had a minister friend whom she met in the Poconos, who pastored a church in Lima, close to where she was living with her parents. This was another good reason for getting married soon. Her father, who worked for the telephone company, was transferred to Chester office somewhere around June, and the family, including Betty, went with him. I ran back and forth to Chester on weekends for quite some time.
What was the drive like to Chester? Did you ever run into trouble?
Well, since I was doing it every week, a lot of times I try to go a different direction to see if it was any quicker or easier. And the one week I was on my way home, I think, and I decided to take Route 29, which was a pretty windy road. But then it ended up real foggy, and I was having trouble seeing. And I suddenly caught up to a car ahead of me, and I decided it might be good just to follow his lights. That'll be a lot easier. And so I followed him for quite a while. And all of a sudden he made a left turn. And I made a left turn too. And then he stopped. And then I stopped. And I got out. And he said, "What are you doing here?" I was in his driveway.
Oh, man. Yeah. Nowadays, somebody might be liable to start a fight with you if you follow him into his driveway. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was really something.
So you were putting in a lot of effort to make this work by driving back and forth, but finally, you guys had picked a date. What was it like leading up to the wedding?
Well, the minister, Reverend Bill Sharp, said he would be glad to marry us. So Betty told her parents, and her mother had a fit. Her mother wanted to have a big wedding, and I guess she preferred June. It was too sudden for her, and she said she wasn't coming to the wedding. And Betty said she would have it without them. We were married on October 8, 1949, at the Lima, Pennsylvania Methodist Church, where Reverend William Sharp officiated. My brother was the best man, and Roma Fisher was the maid of honor. Betty's mother and father were both at the wedding, but my mother couldn't make it because of her leg. Betty's mother had a dinner for us, and we had wedding pictures taken by a photographer nearby. We went overnight on a honeymoon to Wilmington, Delaware, and stayed at the Hotel DuPont. I had to be back to work in Reading on Monday morning.
Wow, what a short-lived honeymoon. So did you guys move in together right away after you got married?
I expected to be sent out on a new job soon after I was married, so we decided not to set up housekeeping right away. Betty continued to live with her parents, and I stayed in Reading where I was working. I kept running back and forth to Chester on weekends. We hoped it wouldn't be long, but you know how that goes. Now that we were married, they weren't sending anyone out on a job. At least that is the way it seemed.
So you finally got orders that you were going to move, and where did they tell you that you were being relocated to?
I'm happy we had the chance to do all those things because it wasn't long till I got my orders to leave. If I remember correctly, my boss called me in and asked me if I could leave by Friday for Franklin, North Carolina. I told him I was ready to leave anytime.
And so Betty was going to leave with you, right?
Since we were newlyweds and hadn't set up housekeeping, we had to buy a lot of things to get started. I was a little short on cash at the time, so I asked my new boss if they would forward me a little money until my next pay. He said yes, and then I should go up to the payroll department where they would give me $100 in advance. I was grateful they agreed to allow me to pay it back slowly, and we were greatly relieved. We packed up and left for Franklin the first week in January of 1950.
So when you guys first got down to Franklin, I know that you went apartment hunting, and the first place had roaches. The second place you looked at they were curing hams in the apartment. And then finally you found a really great spot that was in the basement. It had a bathroom, a kitchen, and even parking for your car. So you guys got settled, but something happened. I know you got the advance of $100, but that wasn't the end of that story. What happened then?
I had figured that my first pay in Franklin would be about $110, but instead It was $10. They had taken the entire 100 loan the first week instead of a little at a time, like they had promised. I didn't like this at all. I went over to the telegraph office and sent my boss a telegram. Send more money.
Then what happened?
The next morning I received a telegraph money order for $200. The first thing on Monday morning, the secretary from the office came out to me and told me that my boss was on the phone and that he wanted to talk to me.
Oh boy.
When I answered the phone, he started yelling at me. You asked for money before you left, and as soon as you get there, you send me a message asking for more money. What the hell's going on down there? All I said to him was yes, and my first pay was $10. He replied, them dumb SOBs, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And he hung up. It was about a month until they took any money out of my pay. I don't think my boss ever forgot me after that.
Oh boy. Well, at least you got it straightened out.
Yeah, it's nice to have your boss know who certain guys are.
Yeah, you made a name for yourself. So, now that you guys were settled, you had your pay squared away, you and Betty decided to expand the family a little bit.
Yeah, soon after I started working, I met one of the employees who lived on a farm, and his dog had just had puppies. He offered me one, and we decided to take it. It was a male dog and loaded with fleas.
Oh.
We called him Butch, and he went just about everywhere we went. He was our first dog, and we trained him well, even though we spoiled him. He was some kind of a terrier. The first night, he kept us up half the night. He felt bad because he was taken from his mother and had trouble to settle down to rest. Then someone told us to put an alarm clock in his bed with him, and that did the trick. He slept fine after that, and so did we.
And Butch was a great dog, right?
Oh, yeah. That was about the best one we ever had.
You said that he could walk around without a lead.
He could. It amazed me. When Betty's father would come to visit us in Reading, her father would say, I'll take Butch for a walk. And he'd walk up Pear Street, over Windsor Street, down Center Avenue, with the dog loose. No lead at all. And he always stayed with him.
Wow, that's an amazing dog.
And that's what I could do with him, too.
I wish I could train my dog to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a great dog.
So there were a lot of firsts for you and Betty in Franklin. Your first apartment, your first dog. What about for Betty? I know that it was her first time getting her driver's license. And there's a pretty interesting story that goes along with that.
Yeah, she said she wanted to get a driver's license, so we went and got what do you call that?
Permit?
A permit. And she found a friend that would go with her when she practiced driving. And I felt a little sorry for that friend because all the drive in Franklin, all the roads out of there didn't have guardrails, and there wasn't a straight road in 50 miles. Everything was a turn. And on a mountain. And to picture her driving, trying to learn to drive, with somebody with her and do that. I was pretty bad, but they did that day in and day out. And then I remembered one time I showed her how supposed to turn a car around by making a left turn, go over the other side of the road and then back up and turn around. And when she took her test, before that she learned that in North Carolina they do it different. And so when she took her test and the guy told her to turn around, she said, "Which way should I do it?" And she did it their way then. And she did get her license. She passed the test. She got her license. And she was real happy. And so she decided to come to the plant. I was still working, and she thought she could come and pick me up and take me home. And when she got there were 2 cars in the parking lot. And she parked right next to the one and hit it.
Oh, no!
It just didn't do a lot of damage, but it scratched it a little bit. But the trouble was, it was brand new. And the fellow that repairs the machines, he was very unhappy about it. But he got used to it.
Oh, wow. To hit the only car in the lot. Well, and for you not to get upset about it, that's true love. But this isn't the end of Ken and Betty's story. It goes on, and we're going to hear about that in next week's episode. This is Marley and the Ping Jockey signing off.
Bye-bye.